we always like to put things into action for you. So you had an experience here with going through some sample data. And again, just to reiterate, you might want to take that back and use it with your teachers at your school. With sample data, use that reflection tool in the way that we did today, and then give them their PM2 data. Have them have a couple of days to reflect on it and fill that out. Then what comes next? Hopefully you just read the article. What's the new name for a data chat? A growth chat. So the growth chat would come next after your teachers have had a few days to reflect on their own data and they've had some training in how to interpret that data. Well, we always want to show you a live view of that. So we are so excited for the collaboration that we've had this entire year with the K12 Lift team. And I know you've seen them in and out, and we've introduced them a couple of times, but today we're going to put them in front of you, and they are going to do a Fishbowl simulation of 3 different growth chats that might happen. So first I want to introduce you to the team. Mr. Sam Foister, he is the founder and CEO of the K12 Lift, and he will be playing the role of a principal in this simulation. We also have Shannon Houston over here. She is the Chief Learning Facilitator, and she will be playing the role of Leslie Nope in this simulation that we're about to put in front of you. Also want to introduce you to Lindsay Douglas. She does a lot with professional learning and the content development of that. And then also Chad Gardner back there in the back, the data engineer. So we are thankful for our partnership with this team. So as I said, we are going to do a fishbowl simulation. I need you to be impressed with our little fish.
Look how it turns.
Right. We really needed you to pay attention to that. Lindsay works really hard on that. So we want you to think through this lens. What does it look like to have this growth chat one-on-one with the teachers at your school? What does it look like? And we don't want you to be focused on Leslie Nope in this process, okay? You are focused on the administrator. I only want you to be focused on the administrator. Now, I'm going to encourage you to take some notes. If you brought your participant guide, that's a great place to take notes, or on the inside of your folder. But you're going to see 3 simulations, and so I want you to take notes on those. Think about what things that you see that the administrator did well, or maybe things that there might be an area of opportunity for improvement. So Shannon and Sam, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and join us in the front. Jake's going to switch over our equipment for a second. While they're doing that, I want to remind you the 3 purposes of the growth chat. Okay, first of all, you want to make sure that the teacher is accurately interpreting the student outcomes. Secondly, we want to make sure that they believe in themselves, that they believe that they are difference makers, that after they're looking at their PM2 data, we always call it crunch time, there are things that they can do between PM2 and PM3 to make a real difference. And then the third thing is thinking about that Tier 1 instruction that we've mentioned so many times today, how to make that more impactful. All right, so Shannon, if you want to join Sam, you've got your process here. All right, let me introduce Shannon. So Shannon's playing the role of Miss Nope, and Miss Nope is a brand new teacher. She only has 1 semester behind her belt, okay? So it's the day before winter break. She has been involved in some professional learning, okay? She's been involved in professional learning with her administrator with some sample data, taken her through the process, and then she's been given a few days to use that teacher reflection sheet that we just introduced you to in the carousel, and she's reflected on her own data. And so keep in mind, we're going to be watching 3 different principal types. So you're going to see 3 scenes here, and then after each scene, we are going to give you a few minutes to debrief, think about strengths and weaknesses, again, looking at the administrator. So we want you to really think about how these mid-year growth chats should look. All right.
This cannot be right. I have been up all night looking through my students' portal data, and I printed them all out, and I looked through each and every one of them, and I compared it to what you gave me in the reports. And I wanted to do this reflection, but I just cannot make sense of it. It's completely different.
Good morning.
Hi.
Thank you for coming to this data chat, Ms. Nope. I appreciate that you're so well prepared. Can you back up just a step and tell me what it is that can't be right and what doesn't make any sense?
Yeah, well, when I go into the portal and I logged in and I printed my student reports, I would see that my students had moved from a low level to a mid-level. They had moved up a level.
Sure.
Since the beginning of the year, and then I would look at my profile and I would see all these red lines telling me that they're not learning, and when I put them side by side with the same kids, it just makes no sense to me.
Are you sure that they don't tell the same story?
Well, one looks good and one looks bad.
But I mean, you're sure? You've gone kid by kid.
Yeah, and same names.
These are different.
They're different. So, I mean.
Okay, I don't really know what to tell you about that, honestly. So what I will do is take this information that you've prepared, and I'll go back and I'll try to reconcile how these reports from K12 Lift are different than what's in the portal.
Okay.
I'm sorry that you're so upset by this.
I mean, I can't, if you're looking at this and thinking about me as a teacher, I just am kind of horrified that you might be thinking I'm doing this to my kids.
I'm not thinking that. I mean, what I know for sure is that you work really hard. I know that your kids love you. I know your parents love you. And I know that I don't understand these either. And if it were up to me, we would use the portal because that makes sense to me. But we have been asked to use these, and we're going to use these. So I will go figure out what these mean, and we'll come back. But it's very important to me that you leave this conversation feeling like you're supported.
I mean, I think so. I mean, that sounds like a good plan. So I can just kind of use the portal, and you'll tell me if there's something here. I just want to make sure you're not mad at me.
I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you, Ms. Nope.
Cut.
Great.
Nicely done.
All right, take 3 minutes. Debrief, I want to remind you of the questions here that I want you to reflect on. What do you see in this administrator as far as strengths and weaknesses? What are the things that you might want to do or you might want to avoid? So talk for 3 minutes. The NEFAC team will be eavesdropping, and we're going to be collecting some of your thoughts. 3 minutes.
Question so he could understand her perspective of the problems.
But he didn't have a good grasp on understanding the data himself, so it's hard to help a teacher interpret it when you don't understand the data yourself. Content prior to the portal is the best.
Yeah, it wasn't that great, but we were just going to come for compliance reasons, that we were to do it.
Yeah,
and
the
not
district kind of told me to, or whoever, the higher B's told me to do this. Yeah, so I'm gonna do this
Because they stated the conversation, but he didn't let her leave with an action plan. So he didn't do anything for her in that growth chat that he couldn't done for her in the hallway.
Right, exactly.
That's true.
Yeah, to get buy-in, I think you gotta kind of know what to do, because you can't tell someone to look over data, but you don't know how to use it. And he even said at one point, they told me we have to use it. So like you're not really believing in what you're telling them to do, so they're not gonna buy in. You have it.
All right, we're going to go ahead and call you back. And our NEFAC friends have been eavesdropping to look for strengths and weaknesses, again, looking at the administrators. So Renee, would you mind telling us what you heard in some of the conversations?
I was listening into a conversation at this table, and I heard that the principal did not escalate the situation, but had a real understanding of that teacher's emotions and was able to manage that. I also heard that the principal was not prepared, which is, on the side of the weakness, a lack of preparation and a lack of understanding about the reports, the percentile versus scale scores. I heard the word validate as a strength as well, validated the way that she felt.
Tim, you want to add to that?
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on that, I was listening at a couple tables over here, and the validation piece did come up. He did try to affirm her. Your kids love you. Your parents love you. I know you're working really hard, and that lack of understanding on the principal's part really hobbled his ability to help her confront what maybe needed to be confronted in that data. That there wasn't really any forward movement there because of that lack of understanding.
Right. So he was a great listener, but as far as moving her instruction forward, not really any help there. So we are going to name this scene, this principal, we're going to name him the hugger. The hugger, right? Because he did have some empathy. He, kind of embraced her. Sometimes we affectionately say that might be loving a student right into the bottom quartile. So this is loving a student to lower test scores, right? Loving a teacher into lower test scores, right? All right, so we're going to name him the hugger. All right, we are ready to set up scene 2. Okay, again, I'm going to ask that you take notes, thinking about the moves that you see of the administrator.
Come on in, Miss Nope. So before we get started, I want to set the table a little bit. We're here today to talk about the K12 Lift data and what it tells us and what we're going to go do about it. So I've had a look, and I'm wondering if you can talk to me a little bit about what you saw in your math results.
Oh. Well, I was a little confused. I didn't like what I was seeing in the math, and so I went into the portal and looked because I thought maybe something was wrong. And what I found there was so different in painting a picture. It was saying that my kids were all growing and moving up levels, and then I look here and it looks like the opposite is true. And so I'm really upset about it. I don't know.
Okay, that's fair. You remember from our faculty meeting that these reports work differently, right? The portal reports PM1 results to PM2 to PM3, and K12 Lift actually compares to the prior year. Is that ringing a bell?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit? Okay, well, let's back up a step and just talk through why these things are different and how they're different. And let's set that table first, and then we'll come back to what the results mean. So in the portal, as you know, they report scale scores, right? And you get a scale score for PM1, you get a scale score for PM2, you get a scale score for PM3, and in all of those cases, they're reporting an achievement level against the year-end result, right? So you have a lot of kids that came into your room that looked like level 1 students, right? Mm-hmm. And by PM2, they look like level 2 or level 3 students, is that right? That's what you were seeing? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay, K12 Lift stuff doesn't work like that in this way. They are comparing all results to the prior year, so PM3, and always we're comparing percentile rankings. So not scale scores, but rather where students are relative to their peers, right? Okay. The reason I'm sharing this with you is that I want you to believe that both of these reports are right, but they answer different questions, right? The portal answers the question, if my student took the end of year assessment today, what would they score in terms of scale score and achievement level.
Okay.
K12 Lift is telling us, with the percentile ranking, that if my student continues to learn a normal amount through the rest of this year, this is what they'll get on the end of year FAST assessment.
Okay.
So I want to argue that the K12 Lift report tells us something more important than the portal. Because, let me ask you this, Ms. Nope. Is it likely that all your students are going to learn nothing between now and the end of the year?
I hope not.
Right?
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. You're going to teach and they're going to learn. So the snapshot that we're getting out of the portal in terms of achievement levels isn't terribly helpful.
Yeah.
I don't need to know so much where they are now. I want to know where they're going to be if they continue to learn a year's material in a year's time. So that's one benefit of looking at it the way that K12 Lift looks at it. The other benefit, though, is that we get to see where that student's performance is relative to all the other kids in Florida at every single point in time, PM1, PM2, PM3, et cetera. So we can see how they're moving. And that's where you're seeing the red lines on the form. So let me stop there, take a breath, and ask, does the explanation make sense that these are two different kinds of reports? They're both telling you the truth. It's just a different truth.
I think I like the portal truth better.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair, but I want to argue that the K12 Lift report is useful in its own right. And I'm wondering if maybe we could pick a student to go through as an example. Tell me what you saw in the portal, and let's take a look at what we're seeing in the K12 Lift reports.
Yeah, well, yeah, little Robbie here.
Robbie R.
Yeah. He, I think he was a low level 1 coming in. He was pretty low. And then he moved up in the portal at PM2. He was about a high level 1. Maybe he even moved over to a 2. I don't have it in front of me. So.
And so what we see.
So this is saying that actually he was a 3.
It says last year, his percentile ranking put him at a level 3.
I mean, I thought he was going to make a learning gain. Shoot.
It doesn't look like he's going to make a learning gain right now. What do you notice about the PM1 score and the prior year score?
They're totally different.
They are totally different. Which one do you think is closer to the truth?
Probably that one, but I thought it was that one.
Right. And this is why I'm suggesting to you that we should probably be looking at the percentile rankings, and we should probably be giving weight to the prior year. So what this is telling us, and you couldn't know this in the portal, but what this is telling us is that Robbie came in a level 3, and now Robbie's a low level 2. And what I see in many other students in your math classroom is that they also are learning less quickly than their peers. To be clear, these red lines don't mean they're not learning, and they don't mean that you're not teaching. It does mean that they're not learning quickly as their peers, right? They're moving backward, and I see a lot of moving backward. How do you feel about that?
I feel awful about that. I didn't know.
I believe that you didn't know. I mean, you're a new teacher, and this is a new way to look at things. Tell you what, I don't want you to worry, but we got to fix this, right? I mean, we can't have this happening with students in math, right? You want your kids to be learning a year's material in a year's time. I know that's true. And I happen to know, because I get to see everybody's data, that one of your colleagues is doing much better in math than you are.
Oh, okay.
So here's what I want to do. I want to departmentalize. You're stronger at ELA than you are at math. It's the winter break. It's a perfect time to make a transition. When you come back, I'm going to set you up with 3 sections of ELA, and I'm going to give this section of math to your colleague. I think that's probably what's best.
And cut.
Okay.
The question is, he didn't yes, because however
So that's how we can. She wasn't over music well and gave.
how they're both specific. They're both valuable, but they're used for different purposes.
This is good. Was there anything that this admin did well?
Oh yeah.
He set the goals. He knew
30 seconds.
He knew about his paper. He knew about it.
He knew
Okay.
about his reports. He
Yeah, he knew
explained
how to
all the.
explain it.
Those like systematic distinctions.
Right.
Because he reminded her of tier one staff meeting, he modeled for her and said, remember this, and pointed it out.
And it kind
And then you're saying there was a corner that got rounded here, and
Well, he
what was
also
that?
just did a very good job explaining the difference between the portal and what K12 Lift is asking, and the difference of the two data, and how teachers can be confused. Yes.
And he established the relevancy of it.
For both pieces.
Yeah.
And he asked her guiding questions for her to even dig into her own type of data that she was looking at, but he also validated.
So
her
like the
concerns.
drill down kind of thing that they did? Okay.
Yeah, he
Like
validated-
pick out a student type thing.
Yeah.
He also stated things positively because he said they're not learning as quickly as their peers.
Now another weakness that I was taken to is that he compared her to a colleague immediately to her face, which probably should not have happened. And now he's not only comparing her to the colleague, but probably going to say, now that colleague's going to take half the class.
And what does that
without even
lead to
giving
on a
her
school
chance.
campus?
Well, it was essential. And without even
yeah.
giving her a chance to be supported and figure out what she's doing. To be
She got
able
off
to-
the hook.
Rescued her from the learning.
I'm watching all the admin and coach has go, oh man, I can see what's going to happen. That's going to change this culture. That's going to change that piece of culture.
Yeah, because he
not
still
gonna
isn't
collaborate.
allowing her an opportunity to embrace the report, embrace the system, and
Yeah,
then
where's
embrace
her
her
growth
life.
coming from?
So she's just going to move to ELA and
Have the same issue.
she's going to, yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask some of the NEFAC facilitators who are eavesdropping at your tables to share some of the things that they heard. Tim, let's start with you this time. What did you hear?
Yeah, so it was amazing to kind of watch the coach and admin hats come on, and it happened pretty quickly. So, which is great. It's proactive. That's habit one. So as strengths, they said that in this case, the administrator really had a deeper understanding of the nuances of the data in the K12 Lift profiles and the ways in which they may look and play differently than the data in the portal. That was something they noticed as a strength. One of the weaknesses they mentioned was they said that he robbed Leslie Knope of the ability to fix this. Like he took that opportunity from her. The word disgruntled, I think, may have come up. They were talking about how the culture of the school might shift around dissension, that's it. Dissension was the word, yeah.
Jake, add to that. What did you hear?
Yeah, so there were a lot of conversations as well around just the deep understanding and insight and being able to communicate clearly, like here's the value of these reports, and also how they're connected to the portal and how they're different without taking away from the portal, because that's a tough line that we have to toe. But then there were some conversations around not just the lack of support in this moment for math, but the lack of support growing and moving ahead as a teacher. The ELA data looks better, but maybe what the math data is revealing some more broad pedagogical gaps, especially as a new teacher. And not only is she not going to get support for her math instruction, she's not going to get support for her ELA instruction either. It's like the ELA looks fine on the surface, so just good luck, right? And so it's not just no support in math, also no support moving forward in ELA.
Okay. Renee, anything else you would add that you heard?
I also heard a lot of positive conversation around the explanation and just the need to say the same thing over and over when you are looking at something new. It takes time, and so using those key phrases in the explanation is really positive. Also, in that explanation, forget the ending, but in the explanation part, everything seemed actionable. Like the teacher was probably thinking, okay, what next? What am I going to do about this? Like there was just an opportunity for her to take some action. But then the principal completely disempowered her when he took away her ability to act on it and just gave her problem to somebody else, which could snowball to other problems in the school.
All right.
Did anyone pick up on what happened as she walked in?
She just unloaded. I mean, like, it was obviously on her mind, but he wanted to recap and welcome her and state the objective of why they're meeting and what they're going to talk about.
He really set the purpose, and he didn't set the purpose in scene 1. She unloaded and they went from there. He set the purpose. The purpose of this meeting is this. Wow, I think that really set it off on a different foot than the first scene.
Yeah, I heard that too.
All right, we are going to name that administrator Mr. Fix-It, or as Tim affectionately renamed this administrator, as the mugger. So we have a hugger, then we have a mugger who just took everything away from this teacher. All right, scene 3. Ready for scene 3. Take some notes.
Hello, Ms. Nope.
Hi.
I see that you are very well prepared.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me today. I know you might be a little nervous, so let me just set the table with what this is going to be and not going to be. I hope in the time that we're together here today, we're going to build a shared understanding of what the reports that you have been looking at from K12 Lift can tell us and what they can't tell us. And I also want to give you an opportunity to talk through any questions that you might have or concerns or even just angst that might be around these, because I know they can be hard to look at the first time around. So I like to start these conversations with the question that you had in the reflection guide that we went through together a week or two ago. What do you know now about your Tier 1 instruction that you didn't know before?
Well, my ELA looks pretty good.
Why do you say that? What in the ELA data makes you think that it's good? Let's go ahead and pull that up.
Yeah, I saw that the bars were on the right, and I remembered that was good. So
And why is that good?
because students are growing.
Bars pushing to the right. Yeah. They're growing in terms of what?
Oh, from the prior year.
It is from the prior year. Very good. Do you remember how these bars are calculated or what they are representing exactly? It's totally.
There's been a lot of information.
Yeah, it's
I don't remember.
totally okay. I mean, we covered a lot of ground in that orientation, and these are brand new. So it is totally okay to not have your head completely wrapped around it yet. Happy to go back and offer some clarification. So just as a refresher, these bars represent the average of the red and green lines that are on the classroom profile for, let's find ELA here. That's math. Here we go. ELA. So if you think about it as the average of the red and green lines are going to push this bar to the right, meaning that kids are growing more on average than a year's material in a year's time. And if that bar is pushing to the left, they're growing less than a year's material in a year's time. It doesn't mean all your kids. It means on average, that's the result. So if we see a bar pushing to the right, we would expect to see more green on the classroom profile. If we see a bar pushing to the left, we would expect to see more red. And how does that help in terms of what these things mean?
Yeah. So.
Can I point out something on this that I thought was actually even more encouraging than the bar? These indicators.
I did write that down. Yeah,
Yeah.
75%. I thought that was pretty good.
It in fact is really good, right? I mean, we like to think that we can hit 100, and you can't really hit 100. I mean, as a practical matter, it doesn't happen. Like standard error of measure and all that with these instruments, 80% is a really good number, and you're very, very close to that. So this is actually, it's a terrific result. It's better even than the averages would indicate. Doesn't mean that we don't have room for improvement. Clearly, there are a couple kids that are moving backward relative to their prior year, but on the whole, solid. I'm wondering how that compares to what you saw in math.
Yeah, it was a different story. I was not happy when I saw in math.
So what were you not happy about in math? What did you see?
Well, I saw that all students bar on the left side, which I thought meant all of my students were not learning. I mean, I hear what you're saying now.
And that's
I
not
think
what it
that's
means.
not
Yeah, what
means.
does this mean?
It means that the average of the red and green lines, put them on the left side, so more red.
More red, which means what? What does a red line mean on this classroom profile?
That they dropped in percentile
Relative to
last year.
last year.
Yeah.
Right, it means their percentile ranking went down. Does a red line mean that that kid didn't learn anything?
Oh, I mean, some of them look like they didn't. Oh, that kid, I don't know. Oh, but we don't have his midyear.
We don't have his midyear.
Oh. Sorry, what was the question?
What was the question? What does a red line mean? Does it mean that that student didn't learn anything between last year and right now?
It means they didn't learn as much as their peers.
Right. Yeah, if we think about it like kids running around a track, everybody's running, right? And the running is learning. Kids are being taught, kids are learning, but some kids are learning faster than other kids. And if a student has a red line, it means that that student is being passed by other students in the same grade level in Florida. So it's important to me that we have precision around what these things mean, because I don't want you to look at this and think that none of the students in the lower half of this page are learning. That's not what it means.
Yeah.
It does mean that a lot of the students on the lower half of this page are not learning quickly enough.
Well, we know who these kids are.
So tell me about that. Who are these kids?
Those boys. I mean, there's this group of boys that I'm always having to send to you because
It's true, they do come to me.
They rally each other up, and I'm trying to help the kids who want to learn, and the other
Yeah.
kids, I don't know how to manage it, honestly.
Okay, fair enough. Do you notice anything different between your ELA results and your math results? As I was staring at your data, I realized something. I'm wondering if you see the same pattern.
I don't know. I mean, I know the ELA is better.
ELA is better.
I didn't
but
figure out what was different.
What do you notice about the boys that are the behavior problems in math? Are they doing badly in ELA?
Oh, no.
They're not. Any idea why that might be?
I guess I'm just better at it. I don't know, more comfortable with it, I think.
It could be. I mean, what I'm wondering, can I offer a hypothesis? Like,
Please.
I don't know
I
if this
don't
is
know the
true,
answer.
but I want to tell you
Okay.
something that's on my mind.
All right.
When I saw this, I realized it may be that the boys in your math class, who, by the way, the ones that are struggling are all the kids that came in at the higher level achievements, right? This bottom half of the page are the students who came in higher from the prior year. And most of the boys in that bottom section are the behavior problems. I'm wondering if they are bored and that is causing the problem. I wonder if the lack of being challenged in your classroom in math is causing those boys to act out.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, well, I am paying a lot of attention to this group. I mean, I have to. They are so far behind and seem to know nothing about fourth grade math. And
Yep.
so I have to back up, and then I never get to the lesson I had planned for real, and then they're doing their thing,
Yeah.
and I just that kind of makes sense.
So this is sounding like real life 101 to me, really. And I want you to feel affirmed that this growth and the students that came in at achievement level 1, this is solid. That's really good. And I want you to hold on to that. But we got to do something about the kids that came in the higher achievement levels. They're not growing as quickly as they need to be. And I'm wondering, are you open to having our coach help you figure out how to continue to do the good work you're doing with this group of kids, but do it without doing it at the expense of these students? Like, can we create a circumstance where everybody in your room has an opportunity to learn math? Would you be open to that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I need some help. Mm-hmm.
Okay, then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to relay the details of this conversation to the coach, and I'm going to have her reach out to you right after the break, and you guys can come up with a plan together as to how you think you could be supported so that we address this issue right here. How are you feeling after confronting this very scary stuff?
Cut. All right, take a few minutes and talk about this scene.
Mr. Perfect. So, welcoming her, sets the stage, starts with guiding questions. She understands what's going on. She gets a chance to go ahead and give her what she understands about what her data looks like. He validates again her, not only that she's celebrating her successes by looking at that, but then expands again, refreshes a little bit about the explanation of the actual way that Lift works with her and her growth and her students, to get her to see the difference between her ELA and her math, and then breaks it down to where she understands, like, ooh, I thought it was just my boys at this time. It's really not my boys. I did really well with them in ELA. Why can't I do well with them in math? And then he breaks it into, let me just give you a hypothesis. I don't, and this could be it. And it's more of non-threatening type of thing. So he's creating that atmosphere for her again, and then goes back again and celebrates and says, hey, look, I want to make sure that you understand you're doing really, really well with those students in level 1 that are moving and things, and can I get you a little coach to come in and help you with this, and how are you feeling, because that's your next step, and kumbaya, we're good.
He met every component of the practice profile, and if you want our teachers to do that with students, we have to do that with teachers. Absolutely. Also with that growth chat with the 3 purposes of it, he met all 3 indicators of that.
It's phenomenal. I mean, it's good. It was a very good conversation. Yeah, it was. It was very good.
I like that he, later on, he talks about, instead of just saying, like, this is what I see, this is what I think, he said, can I offer a hypothesis? Not in a way where it's not like he knows it all, but this is kind of what he's thinking. Do you agree with it?
I put discussing the data, not just telling.
Right.
Like, instead of, this is what I see, be like, do you think I'm right in my understanding of seeing this? Like, it's a little less, I'm going to tell you about your data.
And taking it deeper than, okay, these kids, you're saying that they're a behavior problem, but why are they a behavior problem? Could it be because of this? And because I think sometimes new teachers especially, they can't figure out the why. Why are the kids acting this way? Whereas he led her to come to that conclusion of, oh, it's not challenging enough. They might be bored. That's why they're acting out, because you're teaching to these lower students, and that's leaving.
Well, and you do a disservice when if you talk about the behavior separate from the data,
right,
and you just say they're bad because they're bored, then the teacher's going to go, well, you don't know that.
Right.
And then if you look at the data without discussing that possibility, then you have 2 problems to fix. You have the behavior and the teaching. But when you offer the possibility that it's both, then it's one problem fixes both. If my instruction gets better, not only will those scores show it, but the behavior will also get better.
And then also I like that he didn't just focus on like the negatives and what needed to be fixed or where she needed support, but he also pulled out positives and was like, hold on to that, like that's good, but we also then need to look at this side of it.
Yeah.
I like that he did start with the positive that you made.
And that he spent time clarifying her understanding.
And that's very important. They've got to be open. Y'all could go in all you want, but unless that person is willing.
And this person's a first year person, so they wouldn't have the relationship maybe that we have with a veteran teacher where we could go in or we could bring somebody in to watch. But this person, we have to establish that relationship.
Talk to me a little bit about how he closed up shop. Like about what he did.
I like that he was going to give them a break. So this is before Christmas break, and he said he was going to relay the message to the coach and then have the coach.
All right, let's hear your thoughts on scene 3. Strengths, weaknesses. Renee, let's start with you. What did you hear?
Well, I have to share Gina's words. Unflinching and kind. It's actually from
Unflinching and what?
Unflinching and kind, right at the end of that article.
Yeah. Yes, from the article. But totally relevant to this situation. I heard how there was a celebration and a challenge in the conversation.
Tim, add to it.
Yeah, there was a great conversation over here about how he validated her even while still having hard conversations about her data. That at no point did he cease to validate her, but he also didn't back down from those conversations. Yeah. And there was a discussion too about how he closed up with, this is what we do next. This is a concrete next step, a concrete, whatever, life ring if you want to call it that. Yeah. And they also came up with a good name for him.
Hold that.
I'll hold it, but they came up with a good name.
Jake, anything else that you captured?
So something I heard was that from the principal, it was very clear that there was a technical expertise around the data and also around educational practice. And the principal had sort of already arrived at a pretty strong conclusion of what's probably going on and some good next steps. However, he didn't just say it. There were many scaffolded opportunities so that from Ms. Nope's perspective, it kind of felt like they got there together. And the increased chance of buy-in and moving forward that creates, I think is really important.
Right. So this administrator was named the boss you wish you had, or maybe the boss that you would like to be, but I heard rumblings in the room that we could call him Slugger. So we have the hugger, the mugger, and the slugger, right?
Yes. This is what collective efficacy looks like
Yes.
right here. This is how it works.
But think about that spectrum. Think about the hugger who, just loved her, but they didn't really get anywhere, right? They didn't even confront the data. But then you had the mugger, who he was all in and had a plan, but robbed her of every opportunity of having that growth in her classroom and changing her Tier 1 instruction to maximize that student growth. And then you have the boss you wish you had, or the slugger, who took a lot of time. Now, if you notice, that conversation was lengthy. Okay, it took a lot of time to set up, but just like when we talk to our teachers, that front loading is important, and we get wider dividends in the end. Now, I'm going to ask Leslie, were you comfortable in any of those situations?
No.
Right? So there was discomfort in all three. Even the third one that we see so many strengths and you didn't even identify any weaknesses there was discomfort, but discomfort is okay. Think about the times in your life when you've had discomfort. That's where you grow. So just creating this humane confrontation where you're able to work together and come up with a plan. That's what we want to happen with our teachers. Now, I want to show you, you also, not only did we have a teacher reflection sheet, but you have a leader consideration sheet. And that is in your folder. It'll also be, you'll have it electronically. So this allows you to take some time front-loading, studying teachers' scores, reports, making some notes for yourself so that you are prepared for this conversation just like the slugger was prepared. So we wanted you to know that that tool is in there for you. These conversations are meant to be from 20 to 40 minutes. So we know you're going to need to have some conversations at your tables around what that might look like. I know some of you have started having some conversations, some growth conversations with your teachers.